Hello and welcome to the 2018 North American LCS season, where the new year brings new players, a new room system, and 4 new teams to North America. Earlier, Reggie pulled up to the LCS studio in style, and we'll see if this revamped TSM roster can make him and his fans proud today, who came out in droves to celebrate the start of the split. Of course, the Golden State Warriors made their appearance known with the NBA Championship trophy out there. We had Team Liquid running a tailgate, Doublelift going up against his former team. Cloud9 was handing out swag. Big opening day today. Hello, everyone. I'm James Patterson, and over the break, I popped the question. They said yes, so let me introduce you to the permanent analyst desk for Spring 2018, Mark Zimmerman and Joshua Jat Leesman. Now, Mark, you've been with me for about a year now. Old news, but Jat, you're about to sign your life away. Saturdays and Sundays with these two faces. Are you sure about this?
No, it's over. But I will say...
Too late.
I'm ready to pull out...
You're contractually obligated now. Let's go.
Yeah, franchising. Everyone's pulling out all the stops. The NBA Championship trophy, and either Reggie probably rented a Lamborghini.
He bought it.
I hope so. I hope just rented. My goodness.
Just for that?
Yeah, well, hey, he made a statement. It's been known TSM is in the building. Now, for the rest of the split, these beautiful faces will start the day off with the NALCS countdown, bringing us into Champions Select 4 Game 1. We start the split with the premiere of the Team Liquid Super Team versus TSM, followed by NALCS newcomers 100 Thieves and Optic Gaming looking to leave a mark right out the gate. Then every other team takes the stage in a best-of-1, closing out with Cloud9 versus CLG. And you can check out the inaugural edition of the NALCS Lounge during that C9 CLG showdown, where you can catch Freak, Meteos, and Aframu as they share their insights on their former teams, as well as answer some of your Twitter questions. Our first matchup, though, shows the orgs making perhaps some of the biggest moves in the offseason. Team Liquid, who will present the fruits of their labor, versus the reigning champions in TSM.
And this offseason was started, really, by Team Liquid. Every team made huge changes, but Team Liquid made more than everyone after back-to-back ninth-place finishes in 2017. Gotta draw my own attention, even though the story's about Doublelift, to Xmithy and Ole, because they were the two just big players for Immortals last year that led to a lot of their success, and Team Liquid getting both of them should give them some really strong team play.
It wasn't just that they got them, it was the style with which they did it too, memeing the whole thing up, this paid by Steve, the gun with the money coming out of it. Everything was so over the top about their offseason.
And they did it so early. Like, not only did they sign those guys, they then signed like 3 or 4 more players, which they then later sold off to other teams, because they attacked this offseason harder than anyone else.
Right, their announcements came early. The rest of the teams were essentially playing catch-up in the offseason with the remaining players available in free agency.
Right, but they weren't the only one making moves. TSM made some splashes themselves, grabbing what many herald as the best bot lane in the West for the past couple of years in Sven and Mithy coming over. They also grabbed the rookie of the split from the summer 2017, and they got Mike Young, who tore up Europe himself a little bit at Rift Rivals. So this is a team with a lot of hype while maintaining what are 2 of the best solo laners in the league.
Yeah, and Doublelift found out that Sven and Mithy were going to be on TSM from a Reddit thread. So there's going to be some bad blood and some salt between these two guys, but really it's unprecedented that a 3-time North American LCS champion, including the summer split champion from the last split, has now switched out 60% of their roster because they failed internationally to meet their expectations. So TSM, I think, actually taking a big domestic risk at the hopes of larger international success. They want to keep that streak alive and get 4.
And I think that's something that should be applauded, is that they're not fine sitting back on their heels saying, if we kept the same roster, we probably would have smashed North America again, all things considered, and then we would go and hopefully something's different this time
Tired of
around.
that story.
Yeah, they don't care about that. They want international success, and I'm happy to see that this, North American leading franchise is so hungry for international competition.
Right, as well, with all of the roster moves themselves, to some degree, speaking for themselves. We've got both owners of these orgs being incredibly vocal on Twitter towards each other. I mean, if a rivalry didn't already exist, it definitely does now. Reginald and Steve having some fun with the whiteboards.
Yeah, absolutely. Step 1, apparently, for the 2018 plan was get more Danes. So far, a success. Spend more money than Steve. That probably didn't happen. The Lambo, maybe it's going to start bringing...
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah, it wasn't necessarily in players, right?
Yeah.
Right. Just as long as we're netting more money spent.
Steve decided to hit back, though, and I do think they were successful in getting the larger whiteboard. The rest of them, I actually do wonder about how much success they can find. You compare championships to the teams, 6-0. It goes on and on, but Steve has made a big splash this offseason.
I mean, interestingly enough, right, if you look at it from either team's perspective, it's a pretty depressing rivalry from the side of Team Liquid in terms of, their overall, or rather, total performance against this team throughout the history of the NALCS.
So is NA at international events, but we keep making it exciting, Dash.
That's a good point. We keep sending TSM for some reason.
Keep going.
Even though they keep winning. All right, now we're going to send it over to Avli May, who's standing by with the owners for a word.
Thanks, guys. I am here with Liquid Steve and TSM Reginald. Let's give it up for them. Hey, guys, what a better way to start off the NALCS first game of the day than with the most hyped match of this week. Saw you guys hanging out with the fans outside. How excited are you for this matchup? Let's start with you.
Honestly, we go into every single season treating it the same. Not really that excited. I don't see TL as competition. They're always following in our footsteps. White and black, white and black. They used to be white and blue,
You're underestimating us because we're going to shit on you today. That's just what's going to happen.
Now, originally, I was going to ask you guys what you think about your own rosters, but maybe I should ask you to judge each other's. What do you think of the new TSM lineup?
I mean, if I'm going to be honest, I think Reggie put together a great roster for the season. It's really good, but ultimately, we won the offseason, right? We put together an amazing roster, and I have really high expectations for the guys.
I think that, honestly, TL built a great roster. I think that they're going to come in really strong. They started practice, 2 months before us because they really needed it. But, let's be honest, every single season, TL goes into playoffs and they choke. They start off strong and they choke year after year after year after year. You can have the regular season matches, man. We're going to stomp you in playoffs, and even still, you might not even win today.
It's not about past performance. It's about what is written next, and we're going to win. So that's it.
Great words. Now, we heard the TSM fans cheering as they came in. Now, Steve, Liquid fans have had a rough past couple of seasons. Is this going to be the split that people can rep Team Liquid proudly?
Absolutely. Yes, without a doubt.
How many people are being paid by Steve to sit here and chant TL?
Let's go, Liquid!
He must be paying you guys a lot of money.
Well, guys, this is already going to be a hyped-up match. Is this going to potentially be a new rivalry for you guys? And with that, is there any bets placed on this match?
No. I'm down to make bets in playoffs. I don't know about that, guys.
I'm totally down to put a bet on this match, 100%. Let's hear some bets. What should we do? What should we do?
You want to lay it out right now?
Let's lay it out right now. Yeah, let's lay it out.
How about I raise you $5,000 to charity about the winner's choice?
Let's make it 10,000.
$10,000.
And proceed. And once we win, all the proceeds will go to City Year, which is right here in the front on the front row.
How about we do $15,000 and the winners will go to the charity of my choice?
There you go.
Done. Well, 15 is done. Yes, let's do 15 and we'll agree on charity. Let's go.
All right, let's do that.
$15,000 to the charity of the winner's choice. Guys, thank you so much for this interview. And we're going to throw it on to our State Farm analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Avli. That was unexpected.
That escalated quickly.
That escalated
really fast.
Very, very quickly. But I'm happy to say the stakes have been raised. I didn't think they could be raised for game one of the new season, but they have. Real quickly, what are you guys' thoughts on these two owners and their approaches towards, revamping their rosters and giving their fans a reason to believe they'll come away with, a championship title at the end of the spring split?
I mean, it's definitely a one-sided rivalry if you look historically, but this is one of the best times that Team Liquid has ever put a roster together, so you're hoping that they can start turning that around. We've seen it in traditional sports before. NBA teams, Celtics dominated the Lakers, and all of a sudden Lakers come flying back in the 70s, so maybe that's the start of this kind of era here.
Yeah, and I love the relationship. Both these guys are now moving into their 6th year as team owners, and you can tell they're friends, but there is a very real competitive fire, always wanting to outdo each other.
I want to get some more thoughts on this, so we're going to hear from the duo that will be bringing you the action later in the day. Freak and Kobe, give me your thoughts on this matchup.
Thank you very much, Dash. I am Freak. This is Kobe. And we had we had bullet points written out for what we cared about, but I think the 15 grand to charity is a big one.
I mean, it's just awesome. Like, they talked about the history with these two guys, and both of them have been in the scene for so long.
Yeah.
And now that all the financial backing has come in, everybody is all guns out all the time right now. But for people who might not have been following the big rivalry that has exploded, because honestly, Team Liquid and TSM was never a rivalry.
Not really.
Now it is.
Oh, yeah.
Because Double Lift, one of the big players for TSM, has obviously been signed by Team Liquid.
Yep.
But Team Liquid didn't stop there. They were so frustrated with not placing first and not having great success in the North American LCS that they have rumors have gone out as far as the amount of money that they spent, but they've put together an extremely stacked roster here with all-stars basically, and a bunch of players that were playing against Team SoloMid in the first place match.
Right, so I mean, of course, Double Lift here actually beat TSM a year ago when he played for Liquid last time, when he sort of retired, then came back, and of course now he's on Liquid for realsies, and yeah, he's a player that has almost single-handedly recreated the TSM TL rivalry. I spent about 3 minutes talking to Reginald, and he's like, man, wouldn't it be funny if Steve spent all his money and still couldn't beat anyone and just still ended up in last place? So he immediately jumping out of that train, but definitely a big one there. Another player I think is really important to talk about is the newest blood on either of these rosters, Mike Young in the jungle for TSM.
Yeah, so Mike Young is probably the only, not multi-year veteran in this entire game. Both these rosters, are extremely stacked as far as veteran players. Yet Mike Young, there's a lot of eyes on him as the new signing there for TSM. Coming in, he didn't have a lot of success at the end of last year. Though there was a lot of hype around him early on. And this is kind of the only question mark of how are these great players that TSM have signed going to work together with Mike Young, and how is the communication really going to be brought together?
Absolutely the case. A lot of eyes on him. We'll see how TSM does in a little bit later. But for now, let's send it back to Dash and the analysts.
Thank you very much. Freak, they were talking about Mike Young. I want to continue that conversation. The most inexperienced player on that stage here. A lot of expectation for him in week one.
Exactly. And if you actually just look at every starter today in the North American LCS across all 50 players that have actually started 20 games or more, Mike Young has the lowest win percentage of everyone else. He was 13-23 from his Phoenix 1 games when he was Rookie of the Split. So yes, he's super hyped. He was Rookie of the Split. There's a lot of potential behind this guy, but he's got to start winning.
And if you compare it to the other players on these rosters, all of them are used to competing in championships. So that win rate stat really, paints the difference of the picture between the players.
Riff rivals, bro. Riff rivals.
Yeah, okay.
All right, we're stepping away, but when we return, we'll take a look at the new teams entering the league, the players we're keeping an eye on in today's matches, and who these two think will take the first wins in the spring split. So don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the NALCS Countdown. With the new split comes a new format, and we return to best of ones this season, and it's important to note that each team will be given side selection once per matchup. We also welcome 4 new teams to the league alongside 6 returning. Those 4 new teams are 100 Thieves, Optic Gaming, Clutch Gaming, and the Golden Guardians.
And I love the quality of the new organizations coming in here. Clutch Gaming's Golden Guardians, backed by big NBA teams. 100 Thieves have Cleveland Cavaliers investments, as well as Call of Duty with Nate Shot. And Optic speaks for itself from the shooter scene. So really awesome orgs I see joining the team here.
It's not just teams that are getting shaken up as well. Rosters have gone absolutely crazy. It's the biggest shakeup we've ever seen. Only 9 players are returning to the teams that they played with last split.
And that's just insane to me. There were 50 starters, even with 6 teams, that's still 30 players. 9? Just so few people.
So as a result of that somewhat baffling statistic, I want to play a game hot and cold. With all these roster moves, I want to know which rosters you're hot on and which ones you're cold on. So Jad, starting with you, hot.
Yeah, well, when I made power rankings, I put COG first, and I'm one of the only people that I feel like...
Explain yourself,
crazy.
sir.
He's crazy.
Apparently, they have 33% of the returning players to the North American LCS starting lineup because they're returning Huhi, Darshan, and Stixay. But the big thing to me in this team is those guys are better than they were given credit for last split because they had a weakness in the jungle with Omar God. And I think Rainover is going to be really, really good on this lineup. He was dominating the league in 2016, had that bad year on Liquid.
About to say, you're saying this in the face of 2017.
Absolute red flag.
Okay.
Without soul lanes. You cannot jungle well without good soul lanes, and these COD soul lanes are super strong. The meta's in the right place, and I think COD is going to do big things with Rainover.
Mark, who are you looking at?
Well, he likes a team that has a lot of consistency. I'm actually going to go with a new team that I think has a really nice roadmap set out. Yes, most of these guys have not played together. There's not pretty much pre-built synergy, but they went and got out a good proven coach in Prawley. The prodigal son returns to North America finally. They grabbed Meteos and Ryu, who have worked, or Ryu with Prawley, Meteos and Ryu work together. Some days a huge threat in the top lane. You have a leader in the game with Afromu, hopefully. So there's already a pretty good understanding of what they want to do with this team, as well as their social media and fan engagement has been fantastic. Nate Shot has basically gone out and single-handedly built a fan base with how charismatic he is.
And a team with a lot of experience, 989 combined career LCS games, is 5th. It's just behind the 4 big organizations that I'm not going to go off naming.
All right, well, there you have it. Okay, so we've hit some that we're hot on. How about cold? Jat?
Yeah, so right now I'm cold on Optic. Someone has to be last place, even if these guys have long-term plans. I sat down with Romain, heard about his strategy, building the roster, and it all sounds really good, but when I actually look at the way this team is going to execute in game, you see a lot of players that the last we've seen of them haven't actually looked very strong, and they're all just kind of mashed together onto this new team with a new coach in a new org. So that's too many question marks for me to rank them above some other teams.
And for me, Golden Guardians, they have what I like as a foundation where now that we're in permanent partnerships, you can go for a longer term plan, which is what they're doing here. And previously you had to worry about making it to the next split. It was do or die. They're going for long-term planning, but that doesn't mean I'm excited to watch them play right now. This team is currently lacking firepower, in my opinion. You have High's leadership and synergy, and they're all North American, only all North American roster in the LCS. So hopefully there's more synergy, but just purely off name power, this does not look like one team that's going to compete with the top dogs.
I mean, roadmaps and whatnot, it opens up an interesting discussion, rather, that we can track throughout the day and the coming weeks. But I do want to push forward. With all these changes, we decided to take a look at each matchup today and highlight the players that could be pivotal to their team's success. These are our ones to watch. We've got TSM's Mike Young, Optics, Power of Evil, Golden Guardians High, Echo Fox's Huni, and CLG's Rainover. Let's start with TSM's Mike Young.
Yeah, this is game 1 that's going to be coming up in about 8 minutes, and it's about whether or not Mike Young can perform, because if he shows up in the way he does in these highlight packages, TSM's probably golden, but if he shows up more like he was when he was playing Gragas later in the season and the meta shifted, TSM could be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing. That's why he's the one to watch. While there's much better players, most likely in this series, a lot of TSM's future success will hinge on him. And this is our first look that we're going to get on him.
Next person I want to take a look at is an import, Optics, Power of Evil. A lot of controversy about this guy joining the North American LCS.
Goes out, represents Europe at Worlds fantastically, going toe-to-toe with Faker, makes a big online pitch.
Vote for me!
Vote for me. Betrays everyone, goes across the Atlantic to North America, and he has a big target on his back. And as well as the fact that a lot of analysts are critical of this team so far, and they haven't even played yet.
Yeah, and they're going up against 100 Thieves, 2 actually completely new teams, but he'll be going up against Ryu, and he would need to be lane dominant if Optic has a win condition.
Next up, a mainstay of the North American LCS, Golden Guardians High.
Yeah.
He is synonymous with leadership, shot calling, all that stuff. And he's going to have to bring it here because he has so many young players on this team, and he has done this before with a ton of different rosters. He's worked with contracts in the past in the Challenger Series. That's what people are looking for here, more leadership out of High.
And he's got to replicate FlyQuest's success from the spring of last year when everyone else was disorganized. They found order.
But if you're going to invest in somebody for long-term growth with a bunch of new players, Hai is definitely one of the guys at the top of that list. Next up, Echo Fox's Huni making his return from the LCK after being a runner-up at the World Championship this year.
And a lot of people want to write him off, but do not write off Huni. He dominated some of the best top laners in the world at MSI and the World Championship, and he crushed NA and made people hopeless a year and a half ago. So huge signing for Echo Fox.
I mean, that said, the top lane landscape has changed in North American LCS since he left, with the additions of people like Someday and Flame, who've been wreaking havoc to some degree up there. But without a doubt, a strong player in Huni returning to the North American LCS. Finally, Jat's new favorite player, CLG Rainover. Let's go. Let's hear about him.
Yeah, so Rainover, when he was successful, was when the jungle was more like it was right now, where you can get 2 and 3 levels ahead of the opponent jungler and don't have catch-up experience. So today, a very critical thing against C9 will be what he can do to Svenskeren, who has had some passivity problems in the past. A lot riding on whether or not Rainover can shut down Svenskeren in that last match of the day, COG versus C9.
All right, well, 5:30 ahead of the game. I'm going to ask you for your predictions with one important caveat. Starting today, we'll be tracking your predictions all split long. For better, or almost certainly.
What do we agree on?
I thought we agreed on
first game of the day, we've got a little bit of disparity, but then... FlyQuest,
You
Echo
picked
Fox.
FlyQuest.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that one then. Let's jump into FlyQuest, Echo Fox. Defend yourselves.
All right, so FlyQuest had gotten started in training a lot earlier than other teams. Their coaching staff is something that people underrate with this team, generally speaking.
Yeah.
Robert Yip from Immortals, Rapid Star from SKT, and previously EDG. They have a lot of success. They've been training hard, and I think that they'll start with more synergy than some of these other teams.
Mark did his homework. I like it. Jat, what do you think? And what's your defense for Echo Fox?
They have Huni.
He's against Flame. Flame's great.
But I also have to say, Echo Fox FlyQuest has 2 rookies. In your own power rankings, you put FlyQuest below Echo Fox. And not to mention, the Team Dignitas team with Adrian and Altec, they always do well at the start of splits.
Yeah, you know power rankings aren't head-to-head matchups. This is I think
do.
it's a bad matchup for Echo Fox, where Huni's going to be going up against Flame, can't get his individual snowball off that you're going to hope in other matchups.
Interestingly enough, that's our 4th game of the day. Yeah, I'll be excited to watch that one. One of you is going to be wrong. One of you is going to pull ahead in the standings. We'll see. Narrowing our focus, though, onto the first game. Let's go ahead and throw it over to Zyrene, who took a moment to speak with Team Liquid's coach.
Thanks, guys. Yes, I caught up with Coach Kane just moments ago, and he was very confident about his matchup today, saying that this team was going to win, that they were definitely getting revenge for Double Lift. The 3 members of the Immortal squad aren't really focused on revenge for the finals, and Kane said that he wanted to win this for Peter. He wanted to win this one for Double Lift, and that this roster had exceeded his expectations completely. They're very experienced, and it showed in their scrims, and he couldn't be more pleased with this roster. And when I asked him about going up against TSM, what the scariest thing about them was, he needed a translator for the rest of the interview, but here he replied with one word in English, and it was nothing. Back to you guys.
Nothing to fear. Is that hubris, or is that just, you know, the position that a coach needs to be in when leading into the, you know, opening day of the entire season?
I mean, even Kane, I feel like now with a really good roster, has a lot to prove, because we heard a lot of talk from the Team Liquid org coming into Summer Split last year that he was a real difference maker, and they finished 9th in spring and 9th in summer. He didn't make any difference at all. So I hope that Team Liquid is able to show some results with this roster.
I mean, there's confidence across the board. We saw it from both owners in that interview there. Zyrene with the words of Kane saying that there's plenty of confidence there. Double Lift in his player tribune quotes, in the different, video bits that we've had of him. Tons of confidence across the board, and yet you two have split the table in your predictions. So I want to take this opportunity to look at win conditions. So Jat, defend TSM, give me their core win condition.
Yeah, exactly the most important thing for them to do in this game early on in the season, where people don't actually have really strong macro decisions, is win lane, and then they win the game. And I think their roster is set up to do that if you go from top to bottom of the map. Hanser, Bjergsen, and then Sven and Mithy, the, quote, best bot lane in the West, who Double Lift is going to try and prove wrong. But for TSM to win, they just win all those lanes. I don't think there's much Liquid can do.
And much the same reason, I kind of agree with you. I think TL need to make sure they don't let that happen. Get out on the map. Use the pre-existing synergy of Ole and Smithy, 2 people who are borderline MVP candidates on Immortals last year. Get out on the map, influence some of these lanes. Don't let TSM grind you down. And Sven and Mithy are not a particularly lane-dominant team, or bot lane, excuse me, so it should be okay for Ole to try and get on the map a little bit earlier, even without maybe the synergy being perfect with Double Lift.
I mean, I was about to ask, Jat, with that bot lane, again, best in the West, but not necessarily, considered to be lane-dominant duo, more of a game-dominant duo. Is that, a place that could be attacked by Team Liquid to break this this win lane, win game strategy.
I mean, if you look at what Xmithy and Ole were able to do on Immortals, even with Cody's son, oftentimes they gank that lane enough to make a big difference. So there are still a lot of variables in this game, and if there is a place you attack, that could definitely be it for Team Liquid, because Doublelift getting those kills can absolutely carry a game, and he's highly motivated.
I think that's something to point out just because everyone's always concerned about the Ole, Smithy, and Doublelift synergy. And the thing is, while you're concerned about them having different playstyles, if they actually work really well in coordinating games with Doublelift, they can snowball even harder theoretically than they ever did with Cody's son, because Doublelift is so much more lane focused.
Final point here on Mike Young, because we didn't really talk about him too much. Obviously, if they're winning lane, that's going to give them a lot of breathing room. But for Team Liquid, again, Ole, Smithy, these are two very intelligent players. Mike Young, I mean, as the rookie, as the losingest player in the North American LCS right now, what's your confidence level in his ability to deal with a near MVP in Xmithy?
And what's TSM's confidence level?
Right.
Is he playing Nidalee or is he playing Sejuani?
That's a good question.
That's going to show it.
Right. We had Kha'Zix, Sejuani. We got all kinds of different landscape of champions in the meta today, and we've seen examples of it throughout Korea and Europe. That's another discussion to be had as the day develops, which champions are falling into whose hands and what teams prioritize at the end of the day. That's going to do it for us here at the desk. 30 minutes away from game 1 of the 2018 season. Let's toss it back over to Freak and Kobe. Guys, take it away.
Thank you very much, Dash. Thankfully, not 30 minutes, 20 seconds to go until Champ Select here for the first game of the North American season. I am Freak. This is Kobe. I'm hyped.
I mean, this game has got even more hype than it already was coming into it, with the owners now putting $15,000 on the line for charity as well on top of it. So not only are we going to get to see two of the